I'm going to be sharing my story on moving from a commercial AE role into an enterprise landscape, something that's very relevant for a lot of sales reps who are maybe a bit nervous about making their next career move. I speak to a lot of my friends in sales all the time who are a little bit nervous about making that move up market. So I hope today to add a little bit more clarity for anyone who is in a similar position, and it's definitely worth having a thought about whether it's the right move for you. Currently 6 months into the enterprise role, and I've already been on quite the journey. Today, I'm going to share some of my highs and lows over the last 2 quarters and bracket them into 6 key learnings for everyone to take away today. Number 1 is really about understanding the landscape. So how we work at Cognism in the enterprise space, we have a set list of accounts to go after every quarter. These then get fixed and we're not able to change them at all, or at least very easily after that. So we do this because sales cycles can be anywhere from 6 to 12 months, and that's probably being quite conservative. Moving from commercial to enterprise was a bit like going from running a couch to 5K to then signing myself up for the London Marathon. So it was pretty overwhelming. In commercial, obviously deals are closed quite swiftly. Relationships are a little bit more transactional. In the enterprise space, I'd say the sales cycle is much more elongated. Decision making typically involves a lot of different stakeholders. Nurturing those relationships is going to be the key to success. So I would say the actionable item here is to really research your prospects. And Sarah mentioned a lot of different ways in which you can do that. Understanding their industry, challenges, goals, that knowledge is going to be your foundation in being able to craft more compelling business cases and personalize your pitch depending on what stakeholder you're talking to. My second point of advice would be on building relationships. So enterprise is about building trust and rapport. It's about understanding the client's business on a deeper level, empathizing with their pains. It might be that the pain changes from month to month. It might be that every stakeholder has something different that's important to them. So it's offering a solution that goes beyond we've got the fastest, tallest, biggest, best, whatever you want, and making the transition into painting a bit more of a fuller picture, long-lasting relationships, and really building the trust of what we would call a champion at Cognism. If anyone's familiar with MEDDIC reference here, for anyone who has that as a sales methodology. But it's taking the time to listen actively and ask those open-ended questions. My tip here would be prioritizing relationship building activities within your daily schedule. So actually crafting out time and allocating time specifically for multi-threading, messaging, end users of platforms, and actually spending time with your champion to get to know what's going to help them move the needle and what you can do to help. The next point would be mastering the art of patience. So enterprise deals are going to take time. You kind of have to learn to be patient and resilient. Rejections and delays are just part of the parcel. And instead of getting a bit arsy, you just have to take it on the chin. What's crucial is obviously how you're going to respond to those challenges. So using those setbacks as just an opportunity to learn. I've got quite familiar with just identifying what might have gone wrong and trying to adapt and persevere through that and change my way of thinking. It's important to always have a growth mindset, embracing those challenges as chances to get better and not taking them as personally. And also making sure you're sharing those experience and those learnings with your peers. At Cognism, we have what we call bi-weekly enterprise knowledge shares, which is a global concept. So we have teams from the US, Europe, and that's really a chance for us to share any learnings from that week, what's been going right, what's been going wrong. Sometimes it's just an excuse to have a rant about the deals in the pipeline at the moment that are maybe slowing us down. My second point, which kind of ties into that, is making sure you're collaboratively selling. So in enterprise, it's really important to not just do things alone. You aren't just selling a product, you're actually selling more of a partnership. It's important to work closely with all of your resources. So with your marketing team, with your product team, with your CS team, leverage their expertise to help you build those business proposals. What I often do is bring them into early stage meetings if I know that there's something in particular that the prospect might be worried about, i.e. bad customer service from a previous supplier that they've used. And so bringing on a CS rep can just help to add confidence into that, and actively involving them throughout the sales process. So if you haven't already, or if you aren't doing it already, it's a good idea to open up those communication channels with your colleagues, because they're going to be fundamental to your success if you're looking to move upmarket into the enterprise. The next point would be continually learning, and this goes back to what Jack was mentioning earlier. Don't be afraid to look like the idiot. Sales is always evolving. New technologies, trends, competitors are always emerging constantly. To do well in enterprise, you have to enjoy that process of learning all the time. I make sure I stay updated with industry news, attending webinars, reading relevant blogs, engaging in networking events, just putting yourself out there. I'm guessing that with everyone on the call today, you're probably open to new learning opportunities. So I would recommend just allocating more time into learning in your weekly schedule as well, and treat it with a similar importance as your client meetings. And then lastly would be more in terms of the day-to-day. So making sure that for all of your accounts, you're creating a strategic account plan. In enterprise, every account is very unique. So you need to implement a strong account planning strategy, working with any SDRs that you work with, or if you're solo selling, making sure that you have a good layout of what that account looks like, identifying different stakeholders, understanding what their role is in the deal making process, mapping out influence, and tailoring your approach to each of those. So investing time in creating those detailed account plans, and then regularly reviewing those at every stage of the buying journey as you take different calls, and adapting them to as your understanding of that company gets better. Just to tie everything up, obviously the transition is going to be quite a big one. It's probably the biggest change I've had in my career so far. Luckily, I've got quite a lot of very, very supportive and team members, and also just a really, really good enablement function to keep me going. But it's definitely a journey of both professional and personal growth. But I would say, just to leave it on, it's not really just about the deals that you're closing, but it's also about the relationships internally, but also externally, that you're building, because those are what's going to bring you the best value long term. And there's quite a lot of cash to be made in the enterprise sector, so that's that's also a good incentive.